Geometry Dash has multiple ways to newly progress in the game. First, you have the main levels, which is where almost every player will start. Next, you have the gauntlets and the map packs, which are two more unpopular ways to start the game, but they could help you if you want to do that. Furthermore, once you get into demons, there are two other websites that I particularly like to use. The first one is GDDP, and this separates a wide variety of demon levels into particular tiers, and they also highlight a subset of skill that you will improve on if you beat the level. Next one is GDDL, which is the Geometry Dash Demon Ladder. This also separates every demon in the game into tiers from easiest to hardest. Once you reach Extreme Demon, there are 3 websites you can use. First one is the all-rated Extreme Demon list, which literally ranks every single rated Extreme Demon from easiest to hardest. The next one is the Pointer Crate Demon list, which is just a list of the hardest Extreme Demons in the game from 150 all the way to number 1. The third one is the non-list worthy Extreme Demon list, and this puts all the Extreme Demons that are not on the Demon list onto a list and separate them into tiers. The point is, there are many ways you can actually progress and just make gradual jumps to where you want to go. However, there is a certain other thing you could do: jumping. This is when instead of making small gradual increases to your skill, you make a massive leap from something that is much easier to something that is much harder. So an example of this is where if your hardest is like an easy demon, if you decided to immediately play an insane demon, that's considered a jump, because instead of playing medium demons or even hard demons, you just went right to insane demons. These are often discouraged by a lot of people. However, some people still do them, and for some people it works. However, there have been some incredibly large jumps in the past and some very iconic ones as well. So that's what I want to rank today. I want to talk about some of the most iconic and popular jumps in the community. Starting right off, why is this even a jump? I have no idea why people actually decide to go out of their way to do this. If you don't know, Deadlocked is an easy demon. If you beat Deadlocked and you don't beat anything else, it'll show as an easy demon on your demon profile. So it is an easy demon by RobTop standards. Bloodbath, on the other hand, is an extreme, and while a lot of people think it's an easy extreme, it's still an extreme. The concept of jumping to an easy demon to an extreme just right off the bat is insane. This has been done before, some people have actually successfully done it, but it always takes them a very long time to do it. And once you do beat it, your skill set is probably so screwed at this point. It is probably so heavily ship carried to where you have no other skills. There are some timings in the level, there are some like wave parts in the level, but mostly it is ship. And Deadlocked, by the way, is a horrible level to jump from because Deadlocked is literally carried by like 2 parts. I will never understand why this jump is done so much, but it's done before and I hate it. So it's going right here. We're ranking this a 1 out of 10. Despise this jump so much. Deadlocked to 9 circles. Now this is a jump I can actually somewhat get behind. See, while like I said, Deadlocked is not necessarily the greatest level to jump from because of how like wave carry it is. It has 2 wave parts and that's the only thing that makes it hard. 9 circles is actually kind of similar. Most of the hard part is wave, but the pre-drop in 9 circles is actually somewhat challenging enough to where you have to be consistent enough to get to the wave consistently. 9 circles is a hard demon, and it's a pretty easy hard demon as well, so the jump isn't necessarily huge. You are skipping medium demon difficulty, but this is something that is much more reasonable. It's not great because 9 circles unfortunately does fall into a little bit of the wave carry thing. You might only be good at wave, but if you play well after this hard demon, you could actually develop your skills a lot more and become even better at the game. So I actually think this is a pretty good starting point. I'm going to give this a 8 out of 10. And you just had to ruin it. You just had to ruin it. Why would you do this? You had a good thing going. You made the jump to 9 circles, maybe. You have 9 circles as your hardest. You could do literally anything. You could play other hard demons. You could maybe go to an insane demon. You could round out your skill set more. No. Let's jump to Bloodbath. I swear, if this level wasn't literally as popular because of its legacy, no one would jump to this level, because it's not a good level. I just don't understand why people jump to this so often. Is there seriously nothing more that you want to play than Bloodbath? Like, I know insane demons aren't necessarily the greatest difficulty of all time, but there's gotta be, like, maybe a few levels that you want to play besides Bloodbath, right? Now, don't get it twisted. If you really like Bloodbath this much and you want to jump to it, go for it. But I personally, this is my rating, I can't rank this. I just absolutely hate this jump. I just think it's silly. That's just my personal opinion. We have to give this a 3 out of 10. It's better than Deadlocked to Bloodbath because you're not starting from an easy demon. But holy moly, man. I'm losing my mind with these Bloodbath jumps. Alright, to be fair, this one I'm poking fun at like one of my friends who actually did this jump, or at least tried to do this jump. It didn't go well, but I don't know, Feature Funk is an interesting level to try to jump to. The level that it's carried by its length would mean that the actual gameplay isn't necessarily that hard. However, if your hardest is only club step and you have like very few demons, it's probably not a good idea to try to jump to a level that has demon gameplay for like 4 minutes long. Might not be the greatest idea, and I tried to tell this person that, but they ain't listen to me. Anyway, it's not really done much before. I don't think I've ever seen anyone else try this jump. This is like the only person I've ever seen do it, so I'll be neutral. Maybe if other people could pull it off consistently, I'd give this a higher rating, but for now we're gonna get a 5 out of 10 because I can kind of see this being like good, as long as you don't completely screw the pooch and try to jump to Bloodbath right after. Alright, this is a little more nuanced and a little bit, more complex, so we're actually going to go into a bit more detail with this. If you manage to beat Bloodbath as an extreme demon, that is good. It means you have a lot of experience with the game. So like another jump from Bloodbath would not necessarily be a bad thing. However, Zodiac might be one of the worst levels to actually try to jump to. So I just reviewed Zodiac and I just played it for the first time, and Zodiac is one of those levels where you can easily make progress. However, actually grinding from some of the harder points into the level is where it takes a massive toll on you, and especially going from 0 is very different. I just think Zodiac might be one of the worst levels to actually jump to just because of how unbalanced this gameplay is. Now, I'm aware that some people have done it. Zoink, being very popular, had actually completed this jump and he turned out to be very good at the game. It works for some people. Another highlight is PersonHuman42, who is also very good at the game. I believe he's like number 60 or something on the demon list, so he's a very, very good player. It doesn't work out for everybody though. A lot of people will not finish this jump because the mental strain just takes a toll. The middle of the level is so unfathomably hard compared to everything else that just even practicing and learning the level from that middle point is so much different than getting like the early runs like 67 to 100, for example. Now, if you were to jump from Bloodbath to something like maybe Erebus, this would be a little bit different. Erebus is much harder than Bloodbath and is considered a jump. However, you could actually make progress because you still have enough experience with the game to understand what you need to do, and you have more of an understanding of how to practice and learn levels. Erebus also isn't super long, so it would just mainly be getting the skill to actually do the gameplay, and then after that, you'd be kind of moving pretty quickly. However, jumping to Zodiac is absolutely not one of those things that you should do, and I'm going to actively discourage it. Now, if you really like Zodiac that much, go ahead and do it, but understand that it does not work for everybody, and just because Zoink did it does not mean that you should also do it. To conclude my point, I'm not really here to actively discourage anything that you might want to do. If you really want to play these levels and you don't have anything else that you want to play, go for it. I'm not going to tell you otherwise. However, I did just want to share some perspective that it does not work for everybody, and I do want to explain that if you do make these large jumps, you will be spending a lot of time on these levels. You are not going to make incredible progress very quickly. You are going to have to take a long time to gain the skill and gain the knowledge of the game if you're new. I think jumping is not great because most of the time you could find other levels to play to roll around your skill set and then eventually make the push to what you want to do as an eventual hardest, and it'll probably take you the same amount of time if you just did that versus just going straight to it. I don't know, me personally, I don't like the idea of playing a level for such a long time if it's not necessary. I would like to gain skill to make that experience a little bit easier, because when you're on a level for a long time, it gets frustrating. Like, that's just the natural, reality of the game. It gets frustrating. So, if you really want to play that level so bad and you're having fun with it, no matter how long it takes, by all means go for it. You are actually a bigger person than I am, because I could not do that, and I absolutely respect you for it. Either way, that was just my opinion. I do plan to make a part 2 to this, go over some other jumps that I've heard, and maybe some more obscure ones as well. So if you're down for that, let me know. Maybe suggest your own jumps in the comments. And just like always, I'll see you later. Goodbye.